Welcome to the X22 Report Spotlight. Today we have a returning guest, Bob Goodla. Bob is the creator and owner of TradeGeniusAcademy.com, and I am very happy to have him back on the X22 Report Spotlight. Bob, welcome back to the Spotlight.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here once again. And it's very interesting that every time I have you on here, things get crazier and crazier and crazier. I mean, right now, Biden, it seems that he is no longer running for the presidency, but he's still in office, maybe. And now we have Kamala, who's now running. So they did the old switcheroo. Do you think this is going to affect the economy? Do you think something's going to happen because of what they're doing here?
I'll ask that question in a second. This is the third election cycle that the Democrats didn't allow their people, their democratically, signed up people to have a say in who's president. Isn't that amazing? They are the epitome of authoritarianism. To answer your question, is that the betting markets still have a 2/3, 1/3 Trump over Kamala, and if that changes, the market will crash under her because not only will we have bad policies, we have somebody who I think it's pretty clear doesn't really have a clue. It's just amazing. Amazing to me, somebody is a graduate of law school who can't put a sentence together. Yeah. So people are telling me all the time, she's probably really smart. I said, smart people are able to articulate their ideas, and she's in the idea business. True. She's in the persuasion business, and if she can't do those things because she can't articulate a thought, and probably even her own thought, she can't even do it if they read it to her, and have her just regurgitate it. I think we're going to be in big trouble. I think countries are going to take advantage of us, and I think it's going to be a big problem. So, but the betting markets are saying that Trump's holding firm here at 66% chance of winning.
I think there's a major push because you could see Hollywood came out. You could see, all the people that were for Biden now, saying that he was healthy, everything's great. Now all of a sudden they just completely switched over to Kamala. I think as soon as the shine wears off, people are going to start to realize, wait a minute, nothing's changed. She's still the same person, still pushing the same agenda that Obama pushed on Biden, but it's actually worse. And I think you're right. I think the leaders of other countries and the people looking at the economy, they're going to start to realize that we're heading in a completely wrong direction here. And it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah. I mean, look, Trump, he's very clear what he wants to do. And the left's not really so much voting for Kamala. They're basically voting against them being exposed. And I think that's what we're seeing here. Look, the big losers in all this would be China, be Mexico, right? And it'll be the civil service, the teachers unions, all the people who've been basically parasitic to the United States are going to be exposed. All the people that, the Epstein Island people, they got to be quaking in their boots, and so it's going to be really interesting to see him because he doesn't have to even enact any legislation to destroy them. He just simply has to use the power of the executive branch and just release information. So they absolutely are terrified.
And just recently, we had Mt. Gox. They released a lot of, air quotes, stolen Bitcoin onto the market. And all of a sudden, we saw Bitcoin all of a sudden drop. Do you think this was planned? Because it's very interesting. I mean, they've been holding this for quite a while. And then all of a sudden, they've decided to release it right now. You think this was planned?
We talked about this yesterday. And, my partner, Phil, he's been in Bitcoin from day one. He was a Bitcoin miner, and so he follows this stuff really closely. His view is that it's just because it's in Japan and it's the way the Japanese operate. And he goes, there's not that many coins to really affect the market more than a very short-term blip. So whether their timing was to release it, Germany sold $1 billion or $2 billion worth, and the market sucked it right in. So I think that you're going to see the same thing with Mt. Gox. The insiders are saying maybe 80% of them will hold. So only 20% of them are going to be into the market. And there's such a demand. in these ETFs for Bitcoin that I think it'll get absorbed. And today I've been on with you for a little bit. The market's getting, slaughtered today, and Bitcoin's up, energy's up, and gold and silver miners are up. So it's telling me that that Bitcoin is now going into the safe haven camp.
Yeah, I don't think they were. I don't think they were going to be able to bring it down. I think they want to just show volatility. Oh, look, it's very volatile. You don't want to go into it. I mean, that's been their whole thing. I don't think they can bring it down to zero or get it down to 9,000. I don't think that's possible anymore.
No, they always do that, try to get it. And you bring up a point though, because there's these new products out there from YieldMax, and they're high dividend constructs of the underlying. So BITO is a Bitcoin kind of proxy, and that kind of follows the price of Bitcoin. But then there's another product called YBIT, which follows BITO, and it's been paying out a dividend. I own this thing for a couple months now. It's paying out a dividend at over 80% annualized rate. Okay, and so these products are now coming out in the market. MicroStrategy's 120%, Coinbase Coney is up 100%. And so we trade those actually at Trade Genius, and we put those trades out for people. So there's a way in which you can really leverage these moves, and we're still in the camp of that Bitcoin is still under-owned, and we see six figures in it before we get I would say, a more definitive pause, with the economy slipping into recession.
What do you think about gold right now? I mean, gold has been holding steady. Do you think this is going to go? Well, you just gave us a thumbs up, so I'm assuming that's gold is moving up. Explain.
Yeah, gold miners, silver miners, platinum miners. I think they're all now. China, when the Shanghai market took over price discovery over New York and London, you notice those games are gone now. And so I think Bitcoin, gold and silver, platinum, palladium, they're all going to get a bid and maintain a bid. So you guys have to have some exposure to them. You don't have to go crazy, but you need to have some exposure to gold and silver miners, and you're going to be happy. They're up today too.
Yeah, I mean, you said that Bitcoin most likely going to six figures. What do you think gold? I mean, I'm shocked. I never thought I'd see gold approaching 2,500 this soon, but here we are.
Yeah, I think gold over 3,000 for sure, and silver is going to probably make I want to say an all-time high, because I don't think it's going back to the $50 yet, but it's definitely going to exceed the price it was in 2010.
Do you think the ratio between gold and silver? Do you think that will close?
Hopefully before I die. I've been waiting for that ratio to change for a long time, but they are running into deficits on silver right now. So because it's used in industrial use too, so they're actually running a deficit stockpiles in silver. So yeah, so I see an acceleration. I own 2/3, 1/3 gold miners to silver miners. So, and if people are curious what I own, Hecla for sure on the silver side. Fortuna I own, and then I own CDE. On the gold side, and I like Hecla because it's a U.S. based company, and around the world, when these prices start to go and economies start to falter, you're going to start seeing a lot of games in terms of trying to extract more royalties out of these miners. So you're going to have to pick the right miner.
So just before you mentioned that we're either in a recession or approaching a recession, which one do you think we are? Do you think we're in a recession right now?
Yeah, look, they have different definitions than I do. So it's really simple. If the growth of your economy is less than the inflation rate, you're in a recession. Okay, if velocity is falling, you're in a recession. They can play all kinds of games. They can make it look like the economy's growing, but you're actually, losing jobs and losing your standard of living. To me, that's the definition of recession. They try to hide it through inflation. GDP's up 2.5%. Well, inflation's up 4%. You're in a recession. Right. You see my point? So yeah, I think we've been in a recession all year. And depending on what industry you're in a depression, right? There's some areas that are doing fine. I think in the areas where you live and where I live, there's still people spending, but you just push away from those centers, and people aren't doing so well. And if you can see it in the credit card usage ratios, and the credit card charge-off rates and delinquencies, auto delinquencies and charge-offs, you're seeing it. People are really hurting. And so as a general rule, I think we're slip sliding away, Dave.
Yeah, there was also something else with people who are delinquent on their mortgages. And one of the main reasons is because they've been laid off. They don't have a job right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you and I were growing up, well, I'm probably much older than you are, but, the rule of thumb was you needed to keep 6 months in savings. I mean, basically almost like in a checkbook, passbook savings to cover you between jobs. That's been gone. I mean, people literally lose their job, and they're on the street and starving in 90 days. They have nothing, and the only reason why they're not on the street earlier is because they just simply refuse to pay the rent till they get kicked out. So I worry. The most thing I worry about is when the stock market starts to falter, companies start to panic. They start laying off people to make their margins go up so they can look at the Wall Street. And then what they do is they basically, kill their own golden goose, right? Because their customers are the ones buying it. You need a job and need money to keep buying and purchasing the goods and services. And I think that's what's going to accelerate us into a longer term recession. And I think it's going to be more, it's going to be sharper than what people think, because we've been so used to everything getting papered over. But we're running into a political environment where, let's make an assumption that, that Trump wins, the Democrats could still probably control the Senate to the extent, and they're going to fight his agenda. If Kamala wins, the Democrats can't control the Senate because the veto, and then the House is likely to maintain Republican. And so her agenda will be stymied. And what you'll have here is you won't have the stimulation coming from additional government spending, and everything about this economy is on the margins, Dave. And so, if you don't have that addition, it has to accelerate because the debt's accelerating. So, so you're going to get a problem here that I think 2025 is going to be pretty rough year, maybe even into 2026.
So, I mean, it seems like it's going to get very, very bumpy as we move forward here. Are your algorithms, are you preparing for the market, moving up and down, and gold and Bitcoin and everything like that?
Yeah. So we've been, Bitcoin's been a buy for us. We have bailout price numbers to get out on them, but we haven't hit those. So we've been in them and accumulating, and same with gold miners, silver miners, and in energy, we've been long energy, throughout, and it's holding up well too. The area that we've been telling people to start accumulating is actually on the bond side. Start accumulating the long-term bonds like TLT. There's another ETF, I forget, by Vanguard, but I'm in TLT. And when the Fed lowers their interest rates for the first time, Dave, you're going to see bond yields fall and bond prices go up, and equities are going to sell. So we're positioned for it. Our algorithms are screaming at us to stay the course. We still may have one more big bump higher in equities, coming into August here. And then after that, we have to kind of watch out. But if people want to trade with us, just go to tradelikeagenius.com. We'll teach you how to trade. We throw trades out every day. We have access to these yield products, these ETFs, Dave, that can even support you in a down market. And these yields are absolutely, they look too good to be true. And we've been watching them and trading them now for the past 4 or 5 months. And we understand why they perform the way they do. And you can actually hedge your positions in your portfolios with some of these products on the short side, which was never available before, so that you can not fear the bear market. And we'll teach you how to ratio the correct proportions on those. So check us out, tradelikeagenius.com. Last month, I have $200 and some thousand in these products. It generated a $13,000 dividend check for me. Okay. Wow. So they're out there and they're available. And as long as you believe in the Bitcoin story, there's Bitcoin products. If you're worried about the market crashing, they're inverse products. And then there's a whole bunch of them that are name brand companies that you can pick and choose as you want to. Pick up bigger dividends if you're even trying to call right, which means, call selling. So these are amazing. But check it out. We got great specials running, Dave, as we always do. I sent you a bunch of attaboys of people doing these trades last month. So if your listeners want to check those out and come check us out, I think you'll like it. And what we charge for the service is nothing compared to what you get out of it.
Great. I'll put all the links at the bottom of the video. You mentioned the Fed doing a rate cut, and it looks like they're going to probably do one around September. But what's very interesting is that Trump, he is out there and he said, listen, don't do the rate cut. It's going to be a big mistake. What's your take on that?
Well, once you do the rate cut, that signals to the market to start selling the stock market off. And and some people go safe haven. So I'm not sure what his issue is. He understands it completely. Falling rates means falling economy, right? So, and right now, he probably wants to, a lot of people are getting really rich on 5% money, right? If you have $10 million in the bank, you don't have to even be exposed to the stock market, right? You're making $500,000 a year and the state's not getting any of it, so a lot of people could just go to ground on that. But I think he's ultimately wrong. Interest rates actually need to be zero, okay? Because we just have too much debt. We just can't manage it. So if the market keeps selling by the Fed meeting next week, people are calling for maybe even a July cut. If we stop the selling, looks like September's in the bag. But if they hold off in September, then I think the recession is going to get worse and worse because people just can't manage it anymore. Every time these companies now are renewing their credit lines, they're going from 1.5% or 2% interest rates to 7 and 8% on their credit lines. That means, they can't borrow as much, right? Or they're not going to qualify for as much, or they may even get clawbacks, demand on their loan, and which is, catastrophic for businesses. So I think there's a big problem here, and this is a mess that we made. But they need to drive these interest rates down to zero. They need to put a cap on spending, and the rest of Trump's policies I like. That he's going to bring jobs back in from outside the country. It'll cause a little bit of inflation because you actually get wage inflation because you can't arbitrage labor around the world. And he's also going to shift the tax burden onto those tariffs versus and defund the IRS and some of these other enforcement agencies that are really being used for politics instead of for generating income for the country.
So do you still think that we're going to see a market downturn close to the presidential election?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Doesn't matter who gets in.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually normal. How extensive it is going to depend on who gets in. If it's Kamala, it's going to be worse than for Trump.
So you mentioned the tariffs, and Trump said, listen, we can fund the government, we can fund everything. Actually, he referred back to McKinley at the time where he had tariffs, and I guess back then there was so much money they didn't know what to do with it. And I think he wants to follow the same exact thing. So with the tariffs in place, do you think we're going to be going back to the Constitution where we're going to be going back to sound money?
Yeah, I think they'd have to do it. It's basically they have to do the methadone treatment, right? Mm-hmm. You can't cold turkey it, or the country would melt down in a heartbeat. Everything would grind to a halt. But yeah, but I think after the Civil War till the 1900s, we actually was the golden age for America in terms of GDP growth and the prosperity of the people. We actually had negative inflation. We had slight deflation of prices of goods and services, because the government wasn't creating inflation through debt. And so I think he sees that. It's intuitive. It's going to be a little bit harder because they didn't have social programs when McKinley was in either. So, so you have, if he can get it halfway there, it would be considered a massive victory. But yeah, I think tariffs are the way to go. People are really angry about it in corporate America because they're using arbitraging, labor. And look, I lean that way my whole life, that I think unions are too strong and blah, blah, blah. But also they took it to the extreme where they just hollowed out the entire country, and they basically, basically they were grasshoppers on the field of wheat. and they've left nothing. And I think Trump's trying to restore some balance there. So I support it. We'll just have to see how it goes.
I mean, right now we know that Trump, he all of a sudden he did like a 180. He's all for Bitcoin. He's going to speak at the Bitcoin convention. And do you think with the tariffs, do you think he'll accept payment in Bitcoin?
I don't know. I think somebody gave him religion and explained to him the ultimate effect here. I personally think Bitcoin is going to save the U.S. dollar. So
How's that?
There's so many different ways in which you can use the Bitcoin or the Tether and to absorb some of the debt that we have to create. Bitcoin could backstop the dollar, and I think that was the plan all along. And as the price of Bitcoin goes up, I think the government owns Satoshi's coins, to be honest with you. I think those QR codes are sitting in Fort Knox. And I think you'll see that as the side by sides of the dollar at some point. Something has to replace the reserve currency. There's no other country in the world that can actually replace the United States. And so basically a decentralized digital currency might be the way to go, and it can be tied to the dollar or the dollar tied to it. And I think that might be the ultimate plan here. But at any rate, I think our government pays lip service to when they say they're not for it. I think they absolutely want it. China and Russia have not accepted it because I think they understand that too, and they don't want to get caught in another trap by the United States.
So do you think people in this country would be able to use either the dollar or Bitcoin to transact business?
Yeah, you can do it now. Within Coinbase, you're not going in and out of the dollar. When you're transacting different coins, you're using Tether. So I think more and more states are adopting Bitcoin as a legitimate payment scheme. Phil told me, my partner, I mentioned it earlier in the show, but he's saying that they could create transaction layers over top of Bitcoin. So I think eventually, because people are going to hold Bitcoin as a store of value. I think it's less of a currency than a store of value, and they're just going to have some, I don't know, side chains or whatever to be able to enact transactions. So I'm very bullish Bitcoin. I'm not astronomically, it's going to 1 billion. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think Bitcoin is here to stay. It has value, and people should own some of it.
I agree. Hey, Bob, thank you very much for being on the X22 Report Spotlight. Again, if people wanted to join your trading system, where should they go?
TradeLikeAGenius.com. Take advantage of the specials till Saturday. The markets are going to provide us with incredible opportunities, regardless if it goes up or down, and we'll help you monetize those opportunities.
Great. I'll put all the links at the bottom of the video. Bob, once again, thank you for being on the Spotlight. I really appreciate it. Thank you.